The expensive mistake isn't always the one you make, it's the one you assume. The bank manager's smile froze mid-greeting. His eyes traveled from the tailored suit to the weathered work boots. Designer jacket? Construction site footwear? Something was very, very wrong here. What happened next would cost him everything he'd spent building his career. But that morning, as Marcus Chen walked through those polished doors, the manager had no idea he was making the biggest mistake of his professional life. This is that story. Tuesday morning. 9:47 a.m. Pinnacle Reserve Bank, downtown financial district. Marcus Chen pushed through the glass doors wearing a contradiction. Tom Ford blazer, probably $3,000. White dress shirt, crisp, expensive. And then, those boots. Scuffed leather work boots with concrete dust still clinging to the treads. Paint splattered on the steel toes. The kind construction workers wear on demolition sites. The receptionist, Amanda Price, noticed immediately. Her smile flickered, just for a second. Then she recovered, years of customer service training kicking in. "Good morning, sir. Welcome to Pinnacle Reserve. How can we assist you today?" Marcus approached the desk. Up close, the contradiction became even more bizarre. Rolex on his wrist, calloused hands, $5,000 suit, dirt under his fingernails. "I need to speak with someone about opening a commercial business account," Marcus said. His voice was calm, educated, but there was something rough around the edges, like someone who'd learned to speak professionally but hadn't been born into it. Amanda's fingers hesitated over her keyboard. "Of course. May I have your name, please?" "Marcus Chen." She typed slowly, searching. Nothing came up in the system. No existing accounts, no credit history with the bank, no referrals from wealth management. This was already unusual. Pinnacle Reserve didn't advertise. They didn't have billboards or television commercials. You didn't just walk in off the street. Their minimum account balance was $500,000. Their clientele came through referrals, private wealth managers, family offices. People who walked through those doors uninvited were usually lost tourists or door-to-dash salespeople. "And what type of commercial account were you interested in?" Amanda asked carefully. "Business operations account. I'll need it set up for daily transactions, payroll processing, contractor payments, high volume." Amanda glanced at those boots again, then at the blazer. Nothing made sense. "Let me see if Mr. Davidson is available. He's our senior business account manager. Would you mind taking a seat?" She gestured toward the waiting area. Leather chairs. Coffee table with financial magazines fanned out precisely. Everything designed to whisper wealth. Marcus sat down, crossed his legs. The concrete dust from his boots sprinkled onto the polished marble floor. Amanda picked up her phone. Her voice dropped to a whisper, but Marcus could still hear fragments. "Unusual situation. Yes, dressed well, but I don't know, something's off. No referral. Just walked in." 3 minutes passed, then 5. Other customers came and went. A woman in Chanel depositing checks. An older gentleman discussing investment portfolios. They were seen immediately. Marcus stayed in his chair, scrolling through his phone. At minute 8, Christopher Davidson emerged from the back offices, 52 years old, 20 years with Pinnacle Reserve, gray temples, Hermes tie, the kind of confidence that comes from 2 decades of approved loans and successful portfolio management. His eyes found Marcus immediately. The blazer first. Good. Then the boots. His smile tightened. Not good. He walked over, extended his hand. "Mr. Chen?" "Christopher Davidson, Senior Business Account Manager. Amanda mentioned you're interested in our commercial services?" They shook hands. Christopher felt the calluses. Rough working hands. His smile tightened another degree. "Please, come back to my office." Christopher's office was a shrine to success. Mahogany desk, framed certificates, photos with city council members, business leaders, championship golf tournament plaques. Marcus sat in the client chair. Christopher settled behind his desk, putting furniture between them, a subtle power move he'd learned early in his career. So, Christopher laced his fingers together. You mentioned a business operations account. Tell me about your company. Construction and real estate development, Marcus said. We're expanding operations. Need a banking partner who can handle volume. Construction. Christopher's eyes drifted to the boots. I see. And what's the name of your company? Chen Development Group. Christopher typed it into his computer. His eyebrows rose slightly. Nothing came up. No business registry in their system, no previous banking relationship, no financial history. I'm not seeing anything in our network. Are you currently banked with another institution? Several. We're diversifying. I see. Christopher leaned back. And which institutions would those be? The question sounded casual. It wasn't. This was the filter, the verification. Pinnacle Reserve clients didn't bank with random credit unions or regional chains. They banked with Goldman Sachs, Morgan Stanley, J.P. Morgan Private Bank. Marcus named 3 banks, all major institutions, all private banking divisions. Christopher's expression didn't change, but something shifted behind his eyes. Either this guy was telling the truth, or he was running a very sophisticated con. That's impressive. Christopher's tone was carefully neutral. And you're looking to move some business our way? Correct. May I ask why? Those are excellent institutions you're already working with. Regional expansion. We're opening new operations in this market. Want local banking relationships? It sounded reasonable. It sounded professional. But Christopher couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. The boots, the calloused hands, the lack of any digital footprint in their system. Mr. Chen, I'm sure you understand that Pinnacle Reserve has certain standards. Our commercial accounts require significant capital commitments. The minimum opening deposit for the account type you're describing would be $750,000. He said it carefully, watching for the reaction. This was usually where the scammers or the dreamers revealed themselves. Their faces would fall. They'd make excuses. They'd suddenly remember an appointment somewhere else. Marcus didn't blink. That won't be a problem. Christopher paused. I'm sorry, did you say, that won't be a problem? Marcus repeated. Would you prefer a wire transfer or certified check? Now Christopher was genuinely confused. A wire transfer is typically more efficient for amounts of that size. But Mr. Chen, before we proceed, I'll need to verify some information. Do you have your business documentation with you? Articles of incorporation, EIN verification, business license? Marcus reached into his blazer's inner pocket. For a moment, Christopher tensed. In that split second, his mind raced through scenarios. Was this a robbery? Was this guy actually dangerous? But Marcus pulled out a leather portfolio. He opened it on the desk, removed documents, slid them across. Articles of incorporation for Chen Development Group, Delaware C Corp. Filed 3 years ago. Business license for the state, active, current. Tax returns for the previous year showing gross revenues of $47 million. Christopher's eyes widened. He picked up the tax returns, studied them. They looked legitimate. Professional accounting firm's signature. Everything properly documented. This is impressive, Christopher said slowly. $47 million in revenue. That's a substantial operation. Last year, Marcus said. This year we're projecting $83 million. Christopher felt his mental map rearranging. This wasn't a scammer. This wasn't some construction worker in a borrowed suit. This was a legitimate businessman, a very successful one. So why the boots? Why the concrete dust? Why had he walked in unannounced like some random person off the street? Mr. Chen, I apologize if I seemed cautious. We get a lot of unusual inquiries, and we have to be careful. But these documents look excellent. I'd be happy to help you set up your commercial account. Good, Marcus said. But first, I need to ask you something. Christopher's pleasant expression froze. Of course. What is it? Did you notice my boots when I walked in? The question hung in the air like a bomb with a lit fuse. Christopher felt his face flush. I'm not sure what you mean. Yes, you do. Marcus's voice was still calm, still professional, but there was steel underneath now. You noticed them immediately. You judged me based on them. You made assumptions about who I was, what I could afford, whether I belonged in this bank. Mr. Chen, I assure you, I watched you. The way your smile changed, the way you made me wait 9 minutes while other customers were helped immediately, the way you sat behind your desk instead of beside me, the way you questioned every single thing I said. Christopher's mouth opened, closed. He had no defense because everything Marcus said was true. I wore these boots on purpose, Marcus continued. This is a test I run with every bank I consider working with. I walk in wearing expensive clothes and work boots. I see how I'm treated, whether I'm judged by the contradiction or accepted as a customer. Christopher felt his career flashing before his eyes. Most banks fail this test within the first 5 minutes, Marcus said. You lasted 9. Congratulations. That's actually better than average. But you still failed. Mr. Chen, please let me explain. You don't need to explain. I understand exactly what happened. You saw someone who didn't fit your mental image of wealthy. You saw working-class signifiers and made assumptions. You're not a bad person, Mr. Davidson. You're just programmed by a system that values appearance over substance. Marcus stood up, started gathering his documents. Wait. Christopher rose from his chair. Please, don't go. I made a mistake. I own that. But Pinnacle Reserve is an excellent institution. We can provide the services you need. You can, Marcus agreed. But will you treat my employees the same way when they come in? My project managers who might show up in work clothes? My contractors who smell like sawdust? My laborers who have dirt under their nails like I do? The question hit Christopher like a physical blow. Because here's what you don't understand, Mr. Davidson. I'm not just the CEO. I'm still on sites every single day. I pour concrete. I frame walls. I demo structures. These boots? Marcus gestured down. I was wearing them at 5 a.m. this morning, overseeing foundation work on a $12 million development. Christopher stared at him. Wealth isn't about appearance. Success isn't about looking the part. Some of the richest people I know drive 20-year-old trucks and shop at Costco. Some of the brokest people I know wear designer clothes they bought on credit cards they can't afford. Marcus put his documents back in his portfolio. I need a bank that understands that. That treats people with dignity regardless of how they're dressed. I don't think Pinnacle Reserve is that bank. He walked toward the door. Mr. Chen, wait, please. Marcus paused, his hand on the door handle. You're right, Christopher said. The words came out rough, like they hurt to say. Everything you said is right. I did judge you. I made assumptions. And I'm sorry. Genuinely sorry. Marcus turned back slowly. Christopher sat down in his chair. For the first time in 20 years, he looked genuinely uncertain. Can I tell you something? Marcus didn't answer, just waited. 15 years ago, I was you, Christopher said quietly. Not in construction, in tech. But I had the same thing happen. I walked into a bank wearing jeans and a t-shirt to deposit my first startup check. $600,000. They treated me like garbage, made me wait, questioned everything, finally demanded I leave because they thought I was trying to commit fraud. He laughed, but there was no humor in it. I went to another bank down the street. They processed everything in 20 minutes. That was my first lesson about how the world works. People judge, they categorize, they decide who you are before you even open your mouth. Christopher looked up at Marcus. I swore I'd never do that to someone else. And then I put on a Hermes tie and forgot where I came from. The office was silent for a long moment. I can't promise I'll be perfect, Christopher continued. I've been in this job too long, But I can promise that if you give me a chance, I'll try, really try, to treat people right, regardless of appearance. Marcus studied him, looking for sincerity or manipulation, trying to decide if this was a sales pitch or genuine contrition. "Show me your boots," Marcus said suddenly. "What?" "Your boots. The ones you wore 15 years ago when you walked into that bank. You still have them?" Christopher blinked. Yes, actually. In a box in my garage. I kept them as a reminder." "Bring them to work tomorrow," Marcus said. "Put them under your desk where you can see them, every single day. Let them remind you who you used to be." Christopher nodded slowly. "I will. And then we'll talk about that account." But Marcus didn't leave. He sat back down in the client chair. "Before we move forward, I need you to understand something else." Christopher leaned forward, attentive now, ready to listen instead of evaluate. "This isn't just about me," Marcus said. "This is about everyone who walks through your doors. Because the truth is, I don't actually need Pinnacle Reserve. I have banking relationships, I have capital, I have options. But what about the person who doesn't?" He pulled his phone from his pocket, scrolled, turned the screen to show Christopher a photo. It showed a young woman, maybe 19 or 20, standing in front of a small retail shop, holding a grand opening sign. Her smile was enormous. "Maria Gonzalez," Marcus said. "She worked on one of my job sites for 2 years. Hardest worker I've ever seen. Saved every penny. Had a dream of opening a bakery." Christopher looked at the photo. "6 months ago, she asked me for advice about business loans. I sent her to 4 different banks. Know how many gave her a chance?" "None," Christopher said quietly. "None," Marcus confirmed. "You know why? She showed up in her work clothes because she came straight from her shift. She had an accent because English is her second language. She had student debt and limited credit history. Every single bank saw someone not worth their time." Marcus took his phone back. "I ended up lending her the money myself. $75,000. That shop opened 3 months ago. She's already profitable, already hired 2 employees, already creating opportunity in her community." "That's incredible," Christopher said, and he meant it. "It shouldn't be incredible. It should be normal." Marcus's voice was sharp now. "She had a solid business plan, real market research, genuine drive, everything banks claim they want to see. But because she didn't look the part, she got dismissed. How many Maria Gonzaleses are out there? How many incredible businesses never happen because banks judge books by their covers?" Christopher had no answer. "So here's what I'm proposing," Marcus said. "I'll open my account here. $750,000, just like you asked. But I want something in return." "What's that?" "I want Pinnacle Reserve to create a program. Community business development. Small loans, 50 to 200,000, for people who don't fit your usual profile. People like Maria. People who need a chance more than they need another barrier." Christopher blinked. That's not something I can approve on my own. That would need to go through executive committee, board approval." "I know, which is why I'm not just opening 1 account. I'm opening 5. 1 for each of my entities, each with minimum balances of $750,000. That's $3.75 million in deposits." Christopher felt the air leave his lungs. $3.75 million in new deposits gets attention from executives, Marcus continued. "It gets you noticed. Promoted, probably. And when you pitch this community development program, you won't be some middle manager with an idealistic dream. You'll be the guy who just brought in millions in new business and has ideas about how to bring in millions more." "You'd do that?" Christopher's voice was barely above a whisper. "I'd do that for someone who's willing to change, someone who admits their mistakes and wants to do better." Marcus leaned back. "But if in 6 months, I walk into this bank and see Maria being treated the way you treated me? If I see you back behind your desk, judging people by their boots, I'll move every penny, and I'll make sure everyone knows why." Christopher swallowed hard. "Understood." Good. So where do we start? For the next 2 hours, they worked. Christopher pulled up account applications. Marcus transferred information from his phone. They discussed transaction volumes, interest rates, service fees, wire transfer protocols. And slowly, Christopher began to see it. The scope of Chen Development Group. 12 active construction projects. 4 completed developments generating rental income. 2 properties under renovation for flip sales. 3 more in acquisition phase. This wasn't just a successful business. This was an empire being built one concrete pour at a time. "How did you do this?" Christopher asked during a break. 3 years from startup to 47 million in revenue. That's extraordinary. Marcus smiled. "I outwork everyone. I show up at sites at 5 a.m. I stay until 7 p.m. I know every subcontractor by name. I review every invoice personally. I treat my workers like family because they are family. And I never ever forget where I came from." "Where did you come from?" "Poor immigrant family. Parents worked 3 jobs combined. Lived in a 2-bedroom apartment with 7 people. I learned English watching PBS Kids shows. Learned construction working summers starting at 14. Learned business from books I checked out from the library because I couldn't afford to buy them." Christopher listened, genuinely fascinated now. "I got lucky once," Marcus continued. "A contractor saw something in me. Taught me the trade. When he retired, he sold me his company for $1. $1 because he believed in me more than I believed in myself. And I swore that if I ever made it, I'd do the same for others. I'd be someone who sees potential instead of just appearances." "That contractor," Christopher said. "What was his name?" "James Mitchell. He passed away 2 years ago." "I'm sorry." "Don't be. He lived to see me succeed. Saw the first development completed. Saw me hire my first employee. That was enough for him." Marcus's voice was thick with emotion. "But I think about him every day. About how easily my life could have gone differently. One person's belief made all the difference." Christopher was quiet for a moment. Then, "When I was in tech, trying to raise money for my startup, I had 97 meetings with investors. 97. 96 of them said no. They said I was too young, too inexperienced, didn't have the right pedigree. Investor 97 was an older woman who'd made her money in manufacturing. She took 1 meeting with me, listened for 20 minutes, and wrote a check for $200,000. "What made her different?" Marcus asked. "She told me later that everyone else looked at my resume. She looked at my eyes. She said she could see hunger there, desperation in a good way, the kind of hunger that makes people succeed because failure isn't an option." Christopher smiled sadly. "I sold that company 4 years later for 18 million. She made 40 times her investment. But more than that, she gave me a shot when no one else would. So, you know exactly what I'm talking about." "I do. I just forgot. Somewhere along the way, I became investor number 1 through 96 instead of investor 97. Marcus extended his hand across the desk. "Then let's both be investor 97 from now on." They shook. This time, when Christopher felt the calluses, he didn't flinch. He understood what they represented: work, dedication, the kind of hands that build things instead of just managing them. 3 weeks later, Christopher Davidson stood in front of Pinnacle Reserve's executive committee. 7 executives, including the CEO, Richard Hartwell, who'd built the bank over 30 years from a regional institution to a nationally recognized private banking brand. Christopher had been preparing for this presentation for 21 days straight, nights and weekends, rehearsing in front of his mirror, running numbers until his eyes blurred. "Gentlemen, ladies, thank you for your time today. I'm here to present a proposal that could add between 8 and 12 million in new deposits over the next 18 months, while simultaneously addressing a significant market gap." He clicked his remote. The screen behind him lit up. This is the Community Business Development Initiative, Targeted Lending Program, $50,000 to $200,000 loans. Focus on underserved populations with viable business plans, but limited conventional financing options. Richard Hartwell leaned back in his chair. We have a small business lending department, Christopher. What makes this different? Traditional small business lending focuses on established businesses with track records. This program focuses on startups and first-time entrepreneurs, people who need seed capital to begin. One of the executives, Patricia Chen, raised her hand. That sounds like higher risk. What's our expected default rate? Projected at 12 to 15% initially. But with proper vetting, we believe we can reduce that to 8% within 2 years, which is comparable to our current small business portfolio. And the returns? Richard asked. Interest rates between 9 and 13% depending on risk factors. Over 18 months, assuming we deploy $4 million in loans, we're looking at net returns between $300,000 and $400,000 after defaults. Patricia frowned. That's not substantial for the risk involved. The returns aren't the primary benefit, Christopher said. The primary benefit is community goodwill, positive PR, and access to an untapped deposit base. He clicked to the next slide. According to recent studies, minority-owned businesses generate over $1.4 trillion in revenue annually but receive less than 1% of traditional bank loans. LGBTQ entrepreneurs report similar discrimination. Women business owners face higher rejection rates despite lower default rates. This is sounding like a social program, one executive muttered. We're a bank, not a charity. It's not charity, Christopher said firmly. It's smart business. These entrepreneurs bank somewhere. They deposit revenue somewhere. They use credit cards somewhere. Right now, it's not with us. By being the bank that says yes when others say no, we build loyalty, long-term relationships, future business. Richard was listening carefully now. You mentioned 8 to 12 million in new deposits. Where's that coming from? Christopher took a breath. 3 weeks ago, a client named Marcus Chen opened 5 business accounts with us. Total deposits, $3.75 million. His condition for doing business with us was that we develop exactly this type of program. He believes, and I agree, that there's substantial business opportunity being ignored by traditional banking. $3.75 million from one client. Patricia looked impressed despite herself. And he's referred 3 other business owners. 2 have already opened accounts. Combined deposits of $1.8 million. The 3rd is meeting with me next week. Richard sat forward. That's significant, but how sustainable is this? Are we dependent on one client's referral network? Initially, yes. But if we build a reputation as the bank that serves overlooked entrepreneurs, word spreads. We become the destination for business owners who've been rejected elsewhere. And here's the thing. Most of them aren't high risk. They're just unfamiliar to traditional banking. Christopher clicked to another slide, a photo of a small bakery. This is Maria Gonzalez, 19 years old, wanted a $75,000 loan to open a bakery. Rejected by 4 banks. Marcus Chen funded her personally. 3 months later, she's profitable. Hired 2 employees, generating revenue, paying taxes, building credit. He let that sink in. How many Maria Gonzalezes are out there? How many viable businesses never happened because they walked into the wrong bank on the wrong day wearing the wrong clothes? The room was silent. I'm not proposing we abandon our standards, Christopher continued. I'm proposing we expand our definition of who deserves a chance, better risk assessment, better evaluation, looking beyond appearance and credit scores to actual business fundamentals. Richard exchanged glances with Patricia. Some unspoken communication passed between them. Christopher, Richard said slowly, this is well researched, thoughtfully presented, but I have concerns about reputational risk. If we're seen as lowering our standards, we're not lowering standards, we're broadening perspective. Christopher felt his passion rising. Sir, with respect, Pinnacle Reserve built its reputation on being forward-thinking, on seeing opportunities others missed. 20 years ago, when you started this bank, every competitor said you were crazy. The market was saturated. There was no room for another private bank. You proved them wrong by doing things differently. Richard's expression didn't change, but something flickered in his eyes. "This is the same thing," Christopher pressed. "This is seeing opportunity where others see risk. And I believe, no, I know, there's profit here. Real, sustainable profit. Plus something harder to quantify. Purpose, meaning, the chance to actually help people while making money." Patricia spoke up. "I'd like to propose a pilot program. 6 months, $2 million in lending capital. Let's test the theory. Track defaults, monitor returns, measure community response. If the numbers work, we expand. If they don't, we shut it down." Christopher felt hope surge in his chest. Richard looked around the table. "Thoughts?" The executives debated. Risk versus reward. Social responsibility versus fiduciary duty. Christopher stood at the front of the room, watching his presentation be dissected. Finally, Richard raised his hand. The room fell silent. "Motion to approve a 6-month pilot program. $2 million in lending capital. Christopher Davidson as program director. Review after 6 months to determine expansion or termination." "Second," Patricia said immediately. "All in favor?" 6 hands rose. 1 abstention. Motion carried. Richard looked at Christopher. "You have your pilot program. Don't make me regret this." Christopher felt his knees go weak. "You won't, I promise." The Community Business Development Initiative launched 6 weeks later. Christopher assembled a team, 3 loan officers who'd expressed interest in more meaningful work, a risk assessment specialist who'd been pushing for better evaluation tools, a community outreach coordinator to find qualified applicants. The first applicant was a 43-year-old veteran named James Rodriguez, wanted to open an auto repair shop, had 15 years of mechanic experience but no formal business background. Traditional banks had rejected him 6 times. Christopher reviewed his application personally. Business plan was rough but solid. Market research was decent. Financial projections were conservative, which actually showed good judgment. James had $12,000 saved. He needed $80,000 more. "Tell me about your experience," Christopher said during the interview. James was nervous, kept rubbing his hands together. "I've been working on cars since I was 16. Did 2 tours in Afghanistan as a vehicle mechanic. When I got back, I worked at dealerships, quick lube places, eventually a high-end European repair shop. I know I can do this. I just need someone to believe in me." Christopher saw Marcus Chen in those words, saw himself 15 years ago. "I believe in you," Christopher said. "Let's make this happen." James Rodriguez got his loan. $80,000 at 11% interest, 5-year term. He signed the papers with hands that shook from emotion, not nerves. "I won't let you down," he promised. "I know you won't." The second loan went to Sarah Okoye, Nigerian immigrant, wanted to start a home health care agency, had nursing credentials but limited credit history, needed $95,000. The third went to David Park, Korean-American entrepreneur, tech startup idea that was too early stage for venture capital but too promising to ignore, needed $120,000. The fourth went to Jennifer Wright, single mother, wanted to open a daycare center, had early childhood education credentials and 15 years of experience, needed $140,000. One by one, Christopher approved loans that other banks wouldn't touch. Each one was a risk. Each one was also an opportunity. And Marcus Chen kept his promise. Every business owner he knew who needed banking services, he sent to Pinnacle Reserve. The deposits kept coming. 1.8 million became 3.2 million. 3.2 became 4.7 million. But more importantly, word spread. Maria Gonzalez told her church community about the bank that gave people chances. James Rodriguez told his veteran network. Sarah Okoye told her immigrant community group. David Park posted about his experience on LinkedIn. Applications started coming in, not just from Marcus's network, from everywhere. People who'd been rejected elsewhere, people who'd given up on traditional banking, people who just needed one chance. Christopher reviewed each application carefully. He approved about 40%. Not everyone was ready. Not every business plan was viable. But for those who were ready, who had genuine potential, he opened doors. 3 months into the pilot program, Christopher presented preliminary results to Richard Hartwell. 23 loans deployed. Total value, $1.9 million. New deposit accounts opened by loan recipients, 18. Total new deposits, $2.3 million. 0 defaults so far, though we're still early. Richard studied the numbers. These are good early results, but I'm more interested in 6-month outcomes. Let's see where we are in 3 more months. Fair enough. Christopher hesitated. Sir, can I ask you something? Of course. Why did you approve this? Really, because I know the financial projections were solid, but that wasn't the only factor. Richard was quiet for a moment. Then, 28 years ago, I walked into a bank to apply for a business loan. I had a plan to start a private banking institution. The loan officer laughed at me, told me I was dreaming, told me to come back when I had real credentials. Christopher's eyes widened. I went to 7 more banks. Same story. Finally, a small credit union gave me a chance. The branch manager was an older man named William Torres. He looked at my plan for 20 minutes, then said, I think you're either going to fail spectacularly or succeed beyond your wildest dreams. I'm betting on the second one. He gave you the loan. He gave me the loan, $250,000. It took me 8 years to pay it back. By then, Pinnacle Reserve had become what it is now. I tried to find William Torres to thank him properly. He'd passed away 2 years earlier. Richard's voice grew thick. I never got to tell him what his belief meant, how that one chance changed everything. So when you came in here with this proposal, when I heard the passion in your voice, I heard myself 28 years ago. And I thought, maybe this is how I pay William Torres back, by being for someone else what he was for me. Christopher felt his eyes stinging. Thank you for telling me that. Thank Marcus Chen. He's the one who reminded you why this matters. You reminded me. Now we're all trying to be better. Richard smiled. That's not a bad legacy to build. Month 6. Review time. Christopher stood once again in front of the executive committee. This time he felt different. Confident, not just hopeful. The numbers were his armor. Community Business Development Initiative, 6-month review. He clicked to the first slide. 41 loans deployed. Total value, $3.7 million. Average loan size, $90,000. Interest rates ranging from 9 to 13% depending on risk assessment. He paused for effect. Total defaults, 1. Default rate, 2.4%. Patricia Chen leaned forward. That can't be right. You projected 12 to 15%. I did. I was wrong. Turns out people who get rejected everywhere else and finally receive a chance are highly motivated not to screw it up. They work harder. They're more careful. They're more grateful. Christopher clicked to the next slide. New deposit accounts, 37. Total new deposits, $6.8 million. But here's what's interesting. Average account balance is $184,000. These aren't small depositors. These are successful business owners who've been underserved by traditional banking. More clicks, more data. Community engagement. Our application was featured in 3 local news stories, 2 national business publications, and mentioned in a congressional hearing on small business lending. We've received over 300 inquiries. Our social media following has increased by 400%. Our brand perception scores are up across all demographics. What's the long-term retention projection? Richard asked. Based on current trends, we estimate 87% of these clients will still be banking with us in 5 years. Compare that to our traditional commercial accounts at 64% retention. One executive spoke up. But what's the actual profit margin after accounting for increased servicing costs? Christopher had been waiting for this question. Year 1, we're slightly negative, down about $47,000 after all costs. But these are relationship accounts. They grow. James Rodriguez, our first client, just came back for a second loan. His auto shop is expanding. He needs another $60,000. He's not shopping other banks. He's coming directly back to us. Lifetime value, Patricia said, understanding dawning. You're not looking at transaction profit. You're looking at relationship profit over time. Exactly. Sarah Okoye's healthcare agency is generating $500,000 in revenue 9 months in. She needs payroll services, merchant services, eventually equipment financing. She's not taking any of that business elsewhere. We're her bank for life. Richard was nodding slowly. So the question isn't whether this is profitable in month 6. It's whether it will be profitable in year 3, year 5. And every projection says yes, Christopher confirmed. Overwhelming yes. The room was silent for a moment. Then Richard spoke. Recommendation: expand the program. Increase lending capital to $8 million. Add 3 more loan officers. Formalize the community outreach process. And Christopher? Yes, sir? Congratulations. You're promoted to Vice President of Community Banking. This is your division now. Build it right. Christopher felt emotion welling up. I will. Thank you. After the meeting, Richard pulled him aside. You did something important here, Richard said quietly. You reminded this institution what we're supposed to be doing. Banking isn't just about profit. It's about building communities, creating opportunity, helping people achieve their dreams. We'd forgotten that somewhere along the way. Sir, Let me finish. Richard put a hand on Christopher's shoulder. William Torres taught me that success isn't measured in dollars. It's measured in lives changed. You've changed lives, Christopher. James Rodriguez, Sarah Okoye, Maria Gonzalez, even though she wasn't technically our client. All the people who will come after them. That's the real return on investment. Christopher couldn't speak, just nodded. Oh, and one more thing, Richard said with a slight smile. Marcus Chen called me yesterday. He's doubling his deposits with us. Another $3.75 million. Said something about being proud to bank with an institution that actually gives a damn. Christopher laughed through tears. He would say that. He also said to tell you to keep wearing those boots. The construction boots? He said you'd know what that meant. Christopher did know. He'd kept his old tech startup boots under his desk for 6 months now. Every morning he looked at them, remembered who he'd been, remembered why this mattered. I will, Christopher promised. I absolutely will. 1 year later. Marcus Chen stood outside a small auto repair shop. The sign above the door read, Rodriguez Automotive, honest work, fair prices. James Rodriguez came out, wiping his hands on a rag. When he saw Marcus, his face lit up. Mr. Chen, what brings you out here? Just wanted to see how you were doing. Come inside. Let me show you. The shop was immaculate. 4 bays, all occupied. Mechanics working efficiently. Customers waiting in a clean, comfortable lounge area. We're booked solid for the next 3 weeks, James said proudly. Had to hire 2 more mechanics. Brought my nephew in as an apprentice. This place is everything I dreamed it would be. I'm proud of you, Marcus said. I couldn't have done it without you. Without Christopher Davidson. That loan changed my life. Changed my family's life. My kids are going to college because of this business. Marcus smiled. That's what it's all about. They walked through the shop. James pointed out new equipment, explained his expansion plans, showed financial statements that proved the business was thriving. I want to give back, James said. However I can. There are other veterans out there who just need a chance. I want to be for them what you and Christopher were for me. Then do it, Marcus said. Hire them, mentor them, teach them what you know. That's how we change the world, one person at a time. Later that evening, Marcus met Christopher for dinner. They'd become genuine friends over the year, bonded by shared values and mutual respect. "How's the program going?" Marcus asked. "Incredible. We've deployed 11 million in loans, 76 businesses funded. Default rate holding steady at 2.8%, and we're launching in 3 more cities next quarter." "That's amazing." "It's because of you," Christopher said seriously. "You called me out. You held up a mirror and made me see what I'd become. I'll never forget that moment in my office when you asked if I'd noticed your boots." "I've run that test at 17 banks," Marcus admitted. "You're the only manager who actually changed. Most of them just wrote me off, figured they'd lost one customer and moved on. You took it personally, made it matter." "Because it does matter." Christopher paused. "Can I tell you something? My daughter is applying to colleges right now. She asked me last week what I was most proud of in my career. You know what I told her?" Marcus shook his head. "Not the promotions, not the sales numbers. I told her about Maria Gonzalez, about James Rodriguez, about the 76 businesses that exist because we decided to look past appearances and see potential. That's what I want her to remember about her father, that he helped people." Marcus raised his glass. "To helping people." "To helping people," Christopher echoed. They drank. Then Marcus set down his glass. "I have something to tell you. Remember that tech startup I sent your way? David Park? Of course. We gave him $120,000. Why? He just got acquired. $8 million. He's paying off his loan in full and opening a venture fund specifically to invest in underrepresented founders. He's calling it the Second Chance Capital Fund." Christopher's eyes went wide. $8 million? And he's depositing the full amount at Pinnacle Reserve. Says you're the only bank that believed in him when he had nothing but an idea and determination. Christopher sat back in his chair, overwhelmed. I don't even know what to say. Say you'll keep doing what you're doing. Say you'll keep seeing people instead of just numbers. Say you'll remember those boots under your desk. I will. I promise." Marcus looked at his own boots, still construction-worn, still paint-splattered. "You know why I still wear these?" "Why?" "Because they keep me honest. Every time I'm tempted to judge someone, to make assumptions, to think I've made it and I'm somehow better than others, I look down at my feet and I remember. I'm just a kid who got lucky, who had people believe in him, who has a responsibility to pay that forward." "You're more than that," Christopher said. "Maybe, but I never want to forget where I started. The moment you forget where you came from is the moment you lose who you are." They sat in comfortable silence for a moment. "I'm starting a foundation," Marcus said. "Microloans, mentorship programs, skills training, for people like I used to be, like Maria and James and all the others. People who just need one chance." "That's incredible. How can I help?" "Partner with me. Pinnacle Reserve handles the banking side. We'll provide the grants and training. Together we can scale this. Help thousands instead of dozens." Christopher extended his hand across the table. "Deal." They shook. Two men from different backgrounds, different paths, united by a common purpose. Outside the restaurant, a young woman walked past. She was wearing a server's uniform and worn-out sneakers. Her face was tired but determined. She was probably heading home after a double shift. Maybe she had dreams of starting her own business someday. Maybe she just needed someone to take a chance on her. Marcus and Christopher both noticed her. Both saw the potential hidden beneath the exhaustion. Both made a mental note, because that's what they did now. They saw people, not appearances, not assumptions, not prejudices. They saw potential waiting to be unlocked. And that made all the difference. 3 years later, Maria Gonzalez stood at a podium. Behind her, a banner read, National Small Business Success Summit. She was there to speak about her journey from construction worker to business owner. 3 years ago, I walked into my 5th bank. she told the audience of 300 entrepreneurs. I was wearing my work clothes because I didn't have time to change. I was terrified. Sure, I'd be rejected again like all the others, but someone saw past my appearance, past my accent, past my lack of traditional credentials. They saw my passion, my determination, my plan. She clicked to a slide showing her bakery. Modest then, thriving now. Today, I own 3 locations. I employ 17 people. Last year, we generated $1.2 million in revenue, and I just signed a lease for location number 4. Applause filled the room. But here's what I want you to remember, Maria continued. None of this happened because I changed who I was. None of this happened because I tried to look the part or sound the part. This happened because someone finally saw me, really saw me. She paused, emotion thick in her voice. There's a man in this audience who made that possible. Marcus Chen. He loaned me $75,000 when no bank would. He connected me to Christopher Davidson at Pinnacle Reserve, who helped me understand business banking. He mentored me through my first year, and he never once made me feel like I didn't belong. Marcus, sitting in the 3rd row, felt tears in his eyes. So, my message to all of you, Maria said, is this. Don't let anyone make you feel small. Don't let anyone tell you that you don't fit their image of success. Don't let anyone's preconceptions become your limitations. You belong in every room you enter. You deserve every opportunity you seek. And somewhere out there is someone who will see your potential and give you a chance. She looked directly at Marcus. And when you make it, when you succeed, remember to be that someone for the next person. Pay it forward. Open doors. See potential in unexpected places. That's how we change the world. The applause was thunderous. After her speech, people lined up to talk to Maria, to ask questions, to share their own stories of rejection and perseverance. Marcus waited until the crowd thinned. Then he approached. You were incredible up there, he said. Maria hugged him tight. Thank you. For everything. For believing in me when no one else did. I just saw what was already there, Marcus said. You did the hard part. We both did the hard part. Me by not giving up. You by not judging. That's the lesson, isn't it? Success isn't just about the person trying to make it. It's about the people who decide whether to help or hinder. Marcus nodded. That's exactly right. Later, driving home, Marcus thought about that first day at Pinnacle Reserve, walking in with his Tom Ford blazer and construction boots, watching Christopher Davidson's smile falter, testing whether the bank would see past appearances to substance. He'd run that test 17 times at 17 banks. Only one had passed, and that one had become a genuine partner, a true friend, a force for positive change. All because Marcus had been willing to challenge assumptions, because Christopher had been willing to change, because both of them had chosen to see people instead of just categories. Marcus pulled into his driveway, looked down at his boots, still worn, still paint-splattered, still authentic. He'd never wear anything else, because these boots were a reminder, a test, a promise. They reminded him where he came from. They tested whether people could see past appearances, and they promised that as long as he wore them, he'd never forget what mattered most. Not the money, not the success, not the empire he'd built. What mattered was the people, the Maria Gonzalezes and James Rodriguezes, the dreamers who just needed one chance, the believers who were willing to give it. That was the real wealth, the real success, the real legacy. And it all started with a pair of worn-out boots and the courage to walk through the door. The next time you see someone who doesn't fit your mental image of success, pause, look closer. Ask yourself, am I seeing who they are or who I assume they are? Because the greatest opportunities often come disguised as ordinary people. The most valuable relationships often begin with someone we almost dismissed. Don't be the bank manager who judges the boots. Be the person who sees past them. That's how you change lives, including your own.